Start the morning right with a cup of Vinyl Tap. Nothing beats the refreshing taste of a hot, warm mug of Vinyl Tap. Enjoy your podcast in liquid form today. Vinyl Tap. Enjoy responsibly.
2, 1.
Pain.
Welcome to Vinyl Tap. I'm Jason.
I'm Jason.
I'm Jason.
I'm Jason.
And we just listened to Trout Mask Replica by Captain Beefheart and his magic band. What a time.
That was actually
we
really
had.
good. I loved it. That was awesome.
I genuinely can't tell how sarcastic you're being.
Really
right
great
now.
experience. I particularly enjoyed the jazz. And
I hate you.
great musicianship
I hate you, Jason.
demonstrated by all the members.
I'm at a, you know, when you
I mean,
get like
here's
so
a-
tired that you're delirious, that's where I'm at just from
Yeah.
listening to that.
Cool. What a fun experience.
I used to be young, full of energy and life.
Oh man,
And then I listened to Trout Mask Replica, and now I am deceased.
Okay, I'm not going to spill the context straight away. I want to hear people postulate as to what that is, how it came into being, and what's going on.
Explain.
Okay, so my very first comment was, does anyone know how to play? and then we progressed. Then I realized that the lyrics were made up on the spot. Took my pants off and fell space free. The breeze blowing up me was how that was delivered. Much later on in the album,
I'm weary.
I wondered if the band was getting better as they were recording. Because it genuinely sounded like they'd begin to practice like through the process of recording and learn chords. So then once we got to about song 10, we had chords for the first time. And then by kind of Pena, I thought it was Frank Zappa. So that's my final vote. It was Frank Zappa who tried to, I don't know.
I
I have
suppose
no fucking idea.
We
what
should
was
say
going
here
on
that Jason is the one with all the context, and we have no fucking clue what was
Yeah.
going on
No
for the
idea
past
at
100
all.
minutes of our lives.
Absolutely
That, by
not.
the way, we're not getting back.
That really goes on for a long
Yeah.
time. But it's quite enjoyable.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you have any
Honestly.
other thoughts on what's going on, or is that
No,
really it?
I just think that like they sound like they were maybe are competent musicians. They could be.
Yeah, if they tried, if they really put in the
Well,
work.
that's the thing. It's because they're also sort of bad enough that it would be really like you'd have to be really good to sound that bad.
Yeah.
So like,
Okay.
Alright,
Kira, do you have any
you're up.
thoughts?
Oh, my thoughts were like, we're talking, like, it's recorded on tape. I was kind of, my initial feeling was like, this is multi-tracked, but the people who are recording their parts don't have a click, aren't listening to the other people at all. They're just starting and hoping for the best, and they're just putting it all together. That was the feeling that I got.
yeah.
Yeah, like you have two separate bands, one in each ear, because it's panned 100% to the left and 100% to the
I
right.
think vocals,
The vocals
and
are
some bass
centered.
and drums
And the
are
sax
center.
solos are always centered.
Oh, thank God.
But
Okay.
part of our listening experience was having 3 of us listening to it through speakers and 1 listening through headphones at any one time, and it was mostly Tim, and he was mostly in pain, but it does make an interesting difference. I don't think we really settled on whether it was better or worse. It was just
Well, that was the thing.
Interesting.
Sum it up for us, Speed.
Yeah, so hang on, let me just go through my...
Get the quote.
The quote. Because it was essentially, literally anything is better. Even the same album listened through a different medium.
yeah.
And I feel like that really summed it up. Like, I was listening to it, it's like, this is really, really shit. And I put on headphones and I was like, wow, that's
This
really,
is really
shit.
Okay. So,
Tim?
the term experimental rock comes to mind, but what's the experiment? Is it that every player has one too many or one too few limbs? Is it...
Carry on.
And then it dawned on me that this I realized when it was 21 songs in when it was an a cappella take. It sounds like a fucking Percy Granger field recording that he made with his fucking wax cylinder phonograph in 1903. And the guy, he stumbled over a word. And Beebs did say that it makes sense that the lyrics were made up on the spot, but I was thinking, was this album recorded in one take, Jason?
No.
Which line was...
was the experiment to see how many different disabilities we could fit onto the one album? Was the experiment to kill me?
Actually, like, shout out to Orange Claw Hammer, where he's like, it's recitative, and then he's like, licorice, and he likes.
That's what I'm talking about.
Obviously should have taken another take.
He should have done another take.
Or cut it out.
Jason kept saying to us throughout this, like, it was made in 1969, it's recorded to tape. But you can cut tape. You can move it.
It's like just a pure, complete fuck up, and he stutters over it, and then he's just like, "Yeah,"
and that happens like
good enough.
a dozen times across the album. Now, Habibi said the name before, and I'm absolutely fucking certain that Frank Zappa had his nasty mitts all over this.
Did.
Jason, pull the curtain. Tell us what the fuck is going on.
Yes, but no. Frank Zappa produced it.
That's what I
knew it.
He had no creative input except for one or two tiny things where he had to force his hand. To quote Frank himself, talking about Don Van Villay, who is Captain Beefheart, which is a name that Frank Zappa gave him.
Of course.
It was impossible to tell him why things should be such and such a way. It seemed to me that the best thing for me to do was to keep my mouth shut as much as possible and just let him do whatever he wanted to do, whether I thought it wrong or not. So this dude had complete creative control over anything he wanted to do in this album with no interference whatsoever.
Holy shit! Wait, did this dude think? Did Captain Beefheart?
There's a whole thing to get into here.
So
Frank Zappa produced it, which is probably to, the panning and the things that make it a little bit more traditionally bearable. But he just let him, who I think they were friends from maybe it was high school or from like a while back. They knew each other, and he just let him have complete creative control and let him do what he wanted with it.
honestly, that sounds like a Zappa-esque thing to do.
Like just finding a crazy person and giving them a bunch of money and
he's like,
they did not have a bunch of money. So they weren't paying for studio time, I don't think necessarily. I'm not 100%. But they were living and rehearsing in like a rented house together for 8 months before this. Yes. The band laid 20 of the tracks in like 6 or 8 hours in one day.
Okay, yeah,
like
that makes
the
sense.
band rehearsed it like that. That was them.
Holy shit.
Can I go back in time 50 years and recommend that they rehearse another 12 to 14 months?
It's not going to change that is how the pieces were written, which we will get to. So they were living in a house, rehearsing, basically not allowed to leave. They were rehearsing like 14-hour days.
What? Rehearsing what?
Apparently, yeah, this is,
They were rehearsing the exact timing on lick.
Because of how
Licorice.
polyrhythmic and polytonal it is, like it makes sense you've got to practice something that much to
You're
get
kidding.
it. That
This
But it's
wasn't
on purpose?
This wasn't composed like
yeah.
this.
Oh wait, we'll get to that.
Seriously?
Yeah. And so like they didn't have any money. They were living off like government support and like relative support, and so they had next to nothing. And they were even arrested for stealing food. And Frank Zappa bailed them out.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And I don't know. It seems like it was not a good space to be living or working in.
Yeah.
No shit. Sorry, hang on. This was
We're only halfway.
so. This was
through
composed.
the already.
So hang on. You're just gonna have to reveal this to me now.
Yeah, I'm
'cause
gonna have to.
I
I was
can't
gonna say
take it. So,
before you get it.
Let him process this.
so you're saying that those chords at the end of the songs where they're all just like blah, 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 blah,
Intentional.
all of it.
Intentional.
That's fucked.
So.
That was so bad.
slight arguments on the amount of time and the amount of people involved in the composing, but the main dude, Captain Beefheart, sat down at a piano to compose, even though he didn't know how to play the piano and apparently didn't have any like musical composition knowledge. And he would, so like no harmony or anything, he would like find musical phrases that he liked or rhythmic phrases he liked and get someone to transcribe them. They're about 2 bars long. And then he pieced them together in this way that he had worked with someone who was splicing tape and was able to splice tape together and make it work seamlessly because the beats matched up. And so he was then making the music by taking these 2 bars and putting them together and then deciding what instruments they went on, teaching the musicians their parts individually and then getting them to play it. So there was no meter or key or anything in mind. It was like fragmented bits put together. So the actual take is musicians playing together, but the compositional technique is basically like splicing tape and putting it together.
Fucking why?
Dude, one of the lyrics is meat, rose and hairs, meaty. What?
And the little cherry on top of this, it obviously tanked when it first came out. It had relative success in the US. It
What's
is
that
now
relative?
Relative to what?
Also in the
Exactly.
UK, I think it got like 23 on the Billboard chart.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Who
What
was
song?
listening to this?
Okay. And it is now, it's still polarizing.
Don't tell me this is
Really?
a seminal work in any way.
Yeah, at 58 and then revised to 60 in the Rolling Stones top 500 albums of all time. A bunch of great musicians, I can't remember who off the top of my head, like, love it. And most people who really love it are like, yeah, when you first listen to it, you hate it. You listen to it a few more times and you're like, holy shit, this is amazing. Yeah.
I refuse to believe that.
Look, actually, no.
And
Okay.
I like refuse to see it through. Like I don't think that it does get better the more you listen to it, and I refuse to try.
Yep, I'm with you.
I think
not doing it.
I think I'd be prepared to try because actually, because they are good
I was
musicians,
going to say,
right?
you can't denounce the amount of musicianship it takes to practice that
Oh, for sure.
and be able to perform that in that way.
I think I
Yeah.
could.
No.
To intentionally play it that way where they can...
To be
they're
able
not
to
just,
hear that and get it
yeah,
right.
They are
Jesus.
not making random mistakes. They're playing it that way intentionally. And they could recreate that together. Like, that's insane.
Insane is basically the
Okay,
correct
no.
word. Yes.
So when you say they can recreate that, did they ever do live shows? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't...
Because that'd be interesting. That'd be really interesting if, like, when you hear this live, it is as like rhythmically dysfunctional and because like the tuning, I could imagine being like
Other
a
thing
little
I
bit,
haven't mentioned is the way the vocals were recorded. So the band recorded together.
and the vocals were done separately.
There was a few multi-tracking. The vocals were one thing, which was good old... Maybe I said Dan. I think his name's Don earlier, but Don. He wasn't having it in his ears. He was hearing it through like a door or glass in the other room and recording. And because of that, that's why his vocals are slightly shifted out of time.
Okay.
And he just was like, that's...
Was that
That's
intentional?
cool, leave it.
well, people asked him about it and tried to make him do it differently, but that's the way he wanted to do it.
So,
They say that the difference between a madman and a genius is an audience, and I'd like to dispute that claim.
okay, no. So, but what about who did what is it? 4 minutes and 30
also,
seconds
where
or
we're
20
at.
seconds?
John Cage.
John Cage. How is this that far different from John Cage?
John Cage was making a political statement.
This could be a political statement.
Yeah, what were
Well,
his
Yeah,
politics?
so what's the point of this?
Of the album?
Yeah.
That was my first
Why
listen
would
through.
why would you do this?
I personally don't know. This is my first listen through to it, but after hearing all that context and having not heard it, it's one of those you kind of have to try it, right?
Yeah, I think.
You just not agree with that.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel anymore. It does absolutely make sense, and I get, especially in the 60s, I get that happening. I don't understand how it became in any way
a seminal.
Yeah. How is it still lingering as anything other than like a meme?
I don't
Well,
know.
no, okay, so that's where like time and place is important, right? We spoke about this a couple of episodes. Like, if you were to release that today, you would be at best ridiculed. Worst, just not even fucking noticed at all. But
Yeah.
because of the timing, like it's, in the late 60s or whatever, and that's sort of something you can get away with, that sort of, the context of it being released, context that it's released in gives it some different weight.
I disagree.
Okay. I'm
Because
just making up shit, so
this
disagree, please.
kind of thing is almost outside of that time place. Like, you don't hear that and go, oh, that's definitely 60s. It's like its own weird art thing that isn't linked to
Right.
time nor place.
So it's just pure art.
Kind of, because you're not approaching it with a musical concept in mind.
But also, I think like you're working from like the mid 20th century when you kind of like artistically people are experimenting more. You're getting out of like traditional like film media and TV media, traditional music. Like it is in its own thing, but I think the way it was received, I get it being accepted. Then I don't understand it's still
So maybe try and put
being appreciated.
To try and put Tim a little bit at ease, is it maybe that the artistic merit in here is, like, there's like performance art or like, I don't know, like there's art forms that are appreciated not for the final product, but how it was produced. The fact that like these musicians spent 14 hours locked in a room and the compositional method was batshit, and the whole thing is a fucking mess, but it's so like carefully produced. Is that what makes it stand out in time?
I don't know. I think that adds to it, but again, I'm not.
Yeah. I think were I to, and I will not, but were I to listen to it again, I would have a greater appreciation for that side of it and a greater understanding. I don't think it would sound any better, but I think I'd get it more.
So Tim, you look like you're about to cry. What's wrong?
I am crying on the inside, and there's nothing we can do. Art. If we're gonna get into the nitty gritty of it, which I feel like we have to, there's no other way to discuss this.
Yeah.
You have to like get into the semantics of what makes art great, and like I just don't think so. I just don't care that they spent 14 hours. I don't care that he trimmed the songs together from 2-bar sections, gluing them together with tape. I don't care. It sounds fucking abhorrent. This is...
I can actually still remember one of the songs though. It goes dun 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 dun. That's gonna be with me for a long time.
I think, to bring myself back down to earth, I think the way I listen to music is not at all, like, I'm just not built for it, you know? I wasn't made to listen to this. I need to, like, rethink my whole life before I can appreciate this. And I'm just not there. I'm not willing to do it.
That Rush was in this though. Fallin Ditch. I asked you to copy that
barely
melodic
do 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 do.
Yeah.
That's just like a fucking bluesy.
No, but it's
riffy riff.
literally like if we were to listen to that and Rush, they would be identical melodic
Yeah,
fragments.
sure. That single bass line out of that song.
Yeah, which is
but
a
then
guitar line in Rush.
But then
So,
there's 1,000 other things happening in this song.
I wonder if you could sue for that line. That they're so similar.
Is it 12
God.
seconds? All it takes is 12 seconds.
All it takes is 12 seconds.
Well, it
to
repeats.
sue.
It repeats
Wouldn't
through the
you
whole
love
song.
to get like an official summons from Captain Beefheart to take you to court?
Is this man dead?
I don't
Because
know.
I don't want to be insulting an old man's legacy. I really hope he's dead, so that what I'm
Again-
saying is only offending his ghost.
There is I don't know. He doesn't have a wiki.
He just doesn't exist.
Yeah. I don't
He's
know.
like this mad auteur who appeared.
It was-
Frank Zappa just bankrolled him.
Also,
it was
I don't
Frank
think
Zappa all along.
I don't think that you will have said anything
that no one
hasn't
else.
said.
Yeah,
Like
Yeah.
again, this
Yeah.
album still
Polarizer.
polarizes people, and there's no real middle ground on it. People are either this is the worst thing, or they've come around and they're like, no, this is actually phenomenal.
Look, I genuinely see how this could be like a really entertaining, because like Frank Zappa is the same. You listen to his stuff and it's like either you fucking hate it or you love it, and you can't listen to Frank Zappa and be like, yeah, that was alright. like the lyrical content.
Yeah, that was fine.
Like the musical content. You can't just sort of put it on at a party.
I appreciate experimentation.
Bit.
Okay,
don't think
that's the
this
end
is
of that sentence.
But there is
No,
there
it
is such
certainly
thing
is.
as a failed experiment.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Kira.
Yeah.
I don't see what this has done for us. Like, how has this elevated the art form? It's an exercise in a certain method of creation, and fine.
No, okay, even...
Great.
What were all those moments where, like, they were so fucking funny?
Sax solos.
No, not the sax solos.
Those
not
are
just
pretty
yet.
nice.
Nice sax solo. Yeah. No. So right at the end of Pena, where they're just like, Jesus, and then he like giggles.
And they're just like talking
Yeah,
basically
they're
in
just
the room, but it's recorded.
it's
and kept
recording,
in.
and they just
Yeah.
keep it in.
So
Why?
was that composed with 2-bar fragments glued together with tape? He was composing on the piano he didn't know how to play?
I wasn't in the room, Tim. I'm just recounting the context and knowledge that I have.
Forgive me for accusing you, but I feel like I have to blame someone.
Captain Beefheart.
I just think that it's fascinating that what Tim said, that there's so much consideration, they spend these, but then also like there's no fucking editing.
Licorice.
Like the final quality is actually atrocious.
Yeah, those like there's a few of them through that are just like vocals that are obviously just this guy singing. That has to be just one take, shove it onto the track. Like there can't be anything else. It just has to be him doing whatever he feels
You
like
can
at the time.
skip to any 4 points in this album, 4 random points, and you'll see 4 genres that you're okay with being abused. 4 completely different genres. It's incredible.
It's kind of the this is the closest musical equivalent to The Room I've ever encountered.
I have thought about that as well before listening to it.
Yeah. This is actually like, I wonder if he was a similar person to work with.
No, but
just
there's
super...
so much technical proficiency here that Tommy Wiseau just didn't have. Like, the guy barely knew how to operate a camera. He didn't know how to storyboard anything. This is
Well,
it's
so much more considered.
It's The Room if he was directing with like a full like professional, like a
Yeah.
Paramount team or something had come out to film
The Room.
his mind child.
Yep.
yeah.
So has anyone got a favourite song?
The last one actually was okay.
The last one started out alright. It devolved, but it
Then
started
I
out
wrote
okay.
down-
Poppy.
I wrote down, see, the songs are actually good when you only play one of them at a time. Because that's really what it is. They were playing more than one song at a time, yeah? Kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know.
In a manner
I-
of speaking.
Like, I get what you're saying because there's multiple chords happening and different times happening, but I don't know if I think of it as different songs.
I liked the rhythmic riff in the Blimp. That was really cool. Can't fucking remember it, but it was really cool. The rest of it pissed me off.
No, there are some really cool moments.
And
in
there
every
are
song.
sleigh bells in Hobo Chang Ba
Important.
to remind me that it's Christmas time.
Fuck yeah.
Mucus mules, in semen, in syrup, in semen. Just some of the many fine words you too could experience. I think the last song was probably the best. I'm going to mention it because I did write nice sax solo a lot. Okay, I know, but don't judge me for it. But I know. But there is a little bit to those sax solos where they're like, yeah, they're terrible, but also they sound so similar to people that actually play that kind of experimental,
Absolutely.
freeform music that it's like...
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you'd put that on top of any other competent jazz track, it would have been fine. You would have had a good time.
Yeah.
Or
And
it would have been congruent.
I guess the only thing I could really think of is that, like, listening to that sax over whatever the fuck was happening must be what it's like for people who don't really get that kind of, like, improvisational thing, or they're listening to it for the first time. That's what it must be like for them listening to it. Like, if you have no idea what's going on, completely improvised music would sound like that.
Yeah.
And
Like Hair Pie in particular makes me feel like that.
Yeah.
Bake One, of course.
big
The
one.
squeaky sax and the bassoon.
Yeah. I don't know if it was a bassoon.
I'm pretty sure it's or maybe it's a bass clarinet.
Yeah, it could have been a bass clarinet because there's bass clarinet earlier and later.
Yeah.
Who gave him a bass clarinet? How dare you?
Yeah, Kira, favorite song.
I mean, I liked Moonlight in Vermont because it started with dog barking.
Yeah,
That was funny.
That was funny.
Yeah.
I really liked Ant-Man B.
Oh yeah, Ant-Man B was pretty cool.
No, it wasn't.
I liked the name. That was pretty great.
Yeah.
Had a nice sax solo.
I think the rhythm of the main vocals was pretty interesting. as
Actually,
well.
It wasn't.
I did have one that was what was Pachuco Cadaver?
Pachuco Cadaver.
I did write not terrible.
Yeah, I thought that wasn't terrible either.
The
Oh, I guess I did.
The calypso-y
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what have we learnt from this, gang?
Never listening to you again.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
We're not doing Jason Adventures anymore.
Click above to find out what else we've listened to this month.
Click below to support the artist we just listened to.
And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode.